Praise for Queen Elizabeth pouring in from across the globe following her reign. The tributes coming from celebrities, athletes, leaders of the British Commonwealth nations.
Flags flying at half-staff in places such as the Bahamas, where Queen Elizabeth visited at least 5 times during her reign, most recently in 1994. Listen to how one woman there will remember the Queen.
She's everybody's mother. She's one of the most outstanding persons and women in my lifetime.
CNN international anchor Zain Asher joins us now. And Zain, there's dissonance because you have the reverence for the Queen across the world, some of it very personal, but you also have awareness of Britain's colonial history, some of which still lives on today in the Commonwealth, of which there is real opposition to and upset. Larry Madowo was discussing that earlier. You're from a Nigerian family, grew up in the UK. Help explain that contradiction. I wonder how you personally view that.
I would say that the relationship that a lot of Black people who are British by birth and who have African ancestry, the relationship that a lot of us have with the royal family is certainly a complicated one. On the one hand, growing up in the UK, you are taught that the royals are the pinnacle of British high society. You are taught respect and reverence for everything that the crown and the scepter stands for. And also, by the way, for my own sort of personal situation, if you are a child of immigrants, you grew up in the UK, you crave that sense of belonging, and there is an understanding throughout your entire life that the monarchy is really what unites the nation. On the other hand, though, you're also aware, you're taught in school, you learn on your own a little bit more about the sort of darker history of colonialism.
Yeah.
The British Empire was part of the greatest colonial experiment the world has ever known. And you think about what colonialism actually involves, Jim, it is ugly business, okay? The business of subjugating people by force is a brutal one. I grew up with stories of, villages in Nigeria being burned, precious artifacts being looted. Obviously, a lot of people dying through that entire process. I think that when it comes to Queen Elizabeth specifically, there is an understanding and there is an awareness that she ascended to the throne in 1952. And so she was much more involved and sort of, she oversaw much more the sort of breakdown of the British Empire and not the building of it. And I think that's a really important point to sort of take into consideration. She hasn't fought change as much as she could have. So I think that if there is this sort of lingering sense of resentment by some people of colour, because obviously I can't generalise with 2 million people that live in the UK, 2 million Black people that live in the UK, if there is some resentment, I think that it is towards the monarchy, not necessarily the Queen, and there is a distinction, the monarchy versus the Queen.
Important.
That is such a helpful explanation and such an important distinction. So one of the things that Larry reported on last hour that I think is important is real anger among some that she did not apologize for the actions of the empire building. But the new monarch can't. I mean, there are things now, the question will be, what will King Charles do? And what may be said that wasn't said.
I mean, I think it's going to be really interesting to see whether this sort of Commonwealth experiment survives the new king. I mean, I have no idea what's going to happen, but I think that, you saw last year Barbados, for example, removing the Queen as head of state. You are seeing growing calls for republicanism in various other sort of Commonwealth nations, especially in the Caribbean. And I think it's this idea that there is now an understanding of how much money the royal family may have made from slavery, their involvement in sort of colonialism, and there are calls for reparations, right? And even if the reparations are unlikely to happen, you sort of do get this sense that, it's unfortunate that there's been no apology. And that's what people really do take issue with, I think, at this point in time.
And as you know, I mean, listen, there are Republican movements in Australia as well, Northern Ireland, right? Does that leave the United Kingdom? Listen, it's so good to hear you share your personal experiences.
Thank you for having me, Jim and Poppy.
Difficult time.